Welcome to SJECE classes, and this is your class 9 physics class. Now we start the chapter 3 is law of motion. The 3 law of motion. And the first topic of the chapter is force. So, what is force? Force is called push and pull. Not force. How? We are familiar that a force, when applied on a body, can produce the following two main effects. It can change the state of rest or of motion of the body. That is, it can produce motion in the body. It can change the size or shape of the body. That is, it can change the dimensions of the body. So, forces push and pull. That is called force. What is the effect of force? So, it can change the state of rest. State of rest. Or motion of the body. That is, it can produce motion in the body. And second effect is it can change the size or shape of the body body. That's okay. So, for an example, by loading a spring hanging from a rigid support, the length of the spring increases. By hammering a small piece of silver sheet, a big thin foil is made. Here the force increases the surface area. The steam pushing out from a pressure cooker occupies a large volume in the atmosphere. A force, when applied on a rigid object, does not change the interspacing between its constituent particles, and therefore it does not change the dimensions of the object, but causes only the motion in it. On the other hand, a force when applied on a rigid object changes the interspacing between its constituent particles and therefore cause a change in its dimensions and can also produce motion in it. So, a force is that physical cause which change or tends to change either the size or the shape or the state of rest or of motion of the body. Now, kind of forces. Forces. There are two kinds of forces, contact force and non contact force. That is one, contact force, and second one is non contact force. Force. So, contact force. The contact force, the force which are applied on bodies by making a physical contact, are called the contact force. That is frictional force, normal reaction force, tension force, and so on. What is the non-contact force? The forces experienced by bodies even without being physical touched are called the non-contact forces. For gravitational force, electrostatic force, and magnetic forces. Now show you an non-contact force. Take full of water lying on table. In order to drink some water from glass, you have to lift glass to mouth. So you applied force on glass. How are you applying the force? You have touching the glass and lifting it. Here your hand is contact with the glass, so the force you applying on the glass is a contact force. This boy passed this football to his teammate. He is standing the other side of the pitch. The player applying the force by the ball to kicking it. When the player applying force, he is contact with football. So the force is contact force. The other example of contact force is pushing and pulling the desk in other point. Our hand is contact with desk. Similarly, pressing the keys on keyboard, moving up chess pieces, so on. That is the example of contact forces. So what is the contact force? And this all the examples of contact force is muscular force. Force generated due to our body being in contact with the object is muscular. The second contact force is force of friction. What is the force of friction? Okay. Try rolling a ball on surface. What you notice? You notice ball stop after rolling some time. Why? Why this happen? Why ball not continue in same direction? So the reason is that the force is applying on a force to stop it. When the ball is rolling the floor apply a force opposite the applied force. That force is called the friction force, which is opposite the force of direction of ball. So this force stop the ball. That is force of friction. In our daily life, friction force is very helpful for us. Okay. For an example, when a man walk on floor, he applied force backward and floor applied the force forward. This applied force is called friction force, which help to walk on the. And the other contact force are tension force, force exerted by spring, and force exerted during collision. So what is the tension force? When a body is suspended by a string attached to a rigid support, the body due to its weight pull the string vertically downward, and the string in its stretched condition pulls the body upward by a force which balances the weight of body. This force developed in the string is called tension force. And the force exerted by the spring, consider a spring with its one end kept fixed. If its other end is either stretched or compressed, the spring exerts a force F opposite to the direction of the displacement of its free end. The magnitude of this force is directly proportional to the magnitude of displacement. That is its elongation or compression. This force is called restoring force. And the other force exerted during collision. When two bodies collide, they push each other. As a result, equal and opposite force act on each body. These forces are the force of action and force of reaction. Okay. The other non-contact forces are non-contact force are the gravitational force, electrostatic force, and magnetic force. What is the gravitational force? Gravitational force in universe, each particle attract the other particle due to its mass. This force of attraction between them is called the gravitational force. The earth also, because of its mass, attract all other masses around it. The force on a body due to earth's attraction is called the force of gravity, or the weight of the body. It causes motion in the body towards the earth. If the body is free to move, thus it is the force due to gravity that make a body fall when released from a height. The body also attracts the earth by an equal force, but no motion is caused in the earth because of its huge mass. So what is the electrostatic force? Two like charges repel while two unlike charges attract each other. The force between the charges is called the electrostatic force. This force acts between the charged object even when they are separated. And what is the magnetic force? Two like magnetic poles repel while two unlike magnetic poles attract each other. The force between the magnetic poles is called the magnetic force. This force acts even when the magnetic poles are at separation. Place a bar magnet near an iron nail. Now move the bar magnet toward the nail like this. Keep moving the magnet slowly closer and closer to the nail. But make sure that two touch the nail. What did you notice? When the bar magnet was sufficiently close to the nail take a leap toward the magnet and stick to it. What does this tell us? This shows that magnet attract the nail and the contact is not necessary for this attraction. The magnet pulled the nail toward it even through. What's the in contact in nail? The force that is magnet exert on the nail is called magnetic force. So contact is not required to the magnetic force to come into play. We call this force a non-contact force. When you release an object, say a plastic ball from height above the ground, it just fall on the ground. Why does it fall towards the ground? This is because of force the earth exerts on it in the downward direction. The earth always pulls the object towards it. The force that the earth exerts on an object is called gravitational force. The force is attractive in nature. This is attract two objects towards each other. When you open a tap, water begins to flow downward. Take two balloons and suspend the both of them with thread. One balloon hang freely and other balloon kept near it. What do you notice? Any force between them? No. Now rub it with the woolen cloths. After that, and again near it. It attracts it. Yes. They come towards each other. Why? Because they attracting each other. Because of electrostatic force. This is a force of attraction. This attractive force is an electrostatic force. Characters of non-contact force. The gravitational force is always of attractive nature, while the electrostatic force and the magnetic force can be either attractive or repulsive. The magnitude of non-contact force on the two bodies depend on the distance of separation between them. It decreases with the increase in separation and increases as the separation decreases. It varies inversely as the square of distance of separation. That is, on doubling the separation, the force becomes 1/4. Okay, I think you understand the first topic of law of motion, contact force and non-contact force. So, thank you.